I'm calling for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime.
Shout out to all my new dashers out there.
No tax on tips, no tax on tips.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Larger take-home pay, lower tax burden, right? Encouraging better service and higher tips. More freedom and flexibility for gig drivers, and last but not least, a simpler tax filing experience. Guys, all of these things are going to be a major benefit for us gig drivers. And let's be honest, most of the money we make is off tips. So if we cut that tax obligation basically in half, we in for a good season. Why President Trump's no tax on tips could be a game changer for gig workers. Welcome or welcome back. I'm your boy, FDA Dashing Trader. You see, I got my Red Bull right here. I need some energy, guys, because we got some important things to talk about today. First and foremost, make sure you hit that like and that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and get up to 40K. First up, no tax on tips means more money in your pocket. Right now, tips are taxed at the same rate as your regular income. For many drivers, more than half of what they make comes directly from tips. So if we don't have to pay taxes on that money, it could be a significant boost to your take-home pay, allowing you to keep way more than you currently keeping right now on what you earn. Secondly, it will dramatically reduce your tax obligation overall. For many gig workers, tips account for a large chunk of their earnings, like we previously said. Without tip taxes, gig drivers could see a reduction in their total tax bill by over 50%, which is a huge relief. Actually, in most cases, that change in tax obligation could knock you into a whole new tax bracket, making you not even owe no taxes at all. A lot of gig workers, if you have kids, you may not owe a lot in taxes at the end of the year if you are claiming some dependents. But for those out there who are working the gig economy, doing independent contractor work, 1099 work, but you are having to keep track of your miles, itemize your deductions, this is going to be a huge impact for you guys. So you might want to make sure that you're keeping your ear to the streets for this one. Another benefit is it's going to encourage better service and higher tips. Now, hear me out on this one. How is us not getting taxed on tips going to encourage higher tips? Well, if the customers know that the tips we get ain't going to be taxed, they will be more likely to put that tip in the app. A lot of times I encounter customers who tell me, Trader, I like to tip in cash because, for one, I don't know if the company is stealing it. I don't know if the dasher gets all of it. But the most prevailing reason that I heard overall is, if I give you this money in cash, you don't be taxed on it, and which is a good thing, but we can't gamble on cash tips. So this right here will give the customer the peace of mind knowing that if they give the dasher a tip, while we may not know if all the tip gonna go to the dasher, at least we know the dasher won't be taxed on those tips if this legislation from the Trump administration goes into effect. The next thing I want to talk about is this is going to give more flexibility to gig drivers. How? Well, because this change could go a long way to giving more flexibility and giving dashers the option to further plan for their financials when they out dashing and how that correlates to the rest of the year. Without the tax obligation on tips, you can easily plan for savings, investments, or even treat yourself more every now and then. And let's face it, most dashers right now ain't treating themselves that much. We working day to day, shift to shift, dash to dash, trying to get that next dollar to pay our bills because we know we have that high tax obligation. This is definitely going to create a simpler tax filing system, because if half of your money is now not taxable, your whole overall tax obligation gonna be decreased, which therefore in turn is gonna make filling out your tax form, your 1099, your W-2s, whatever you want to call it, when you file your taxes, it's gonna make that process a whole lot easier. And I think it's gonna be a lot more seamless too. Let me know your thoughts, gig workers, DoorDash drivers, Uber Eats drivers, Lyft drivers, Walmart Spark drivers. Let me know what you think about the Trump administration's proposed no tax on tips. And let me know if you're excited for it, because I'm gonna let you know right now. If you making, let's just say you make $50,000 a year on gig work, which is not unheard of. Most gig workers probably make around that much. You probably can guarantee that $30,000 of that $50,000 is gonna come from tips exclusively. Now that's gonna leave you with a tax obligation of only $20,000, which in a lot of cases paying taxes on $50,000 versus $20,000, not only are there going to be some percentage differences in those two categories, but also your refund or the status of you getting one or not may change depending on that. And I know a lot of folks that do gig work paid out taxes at the end of the year. And I know some people do get refunds back depending on their tax situation. This right here is going to be a benefit overall because there will be more dashers overall receiving money back or canceling out their tax obligation altogether, which in turn keeps more money in their pocket over the course of the year. I'm in favor of these policies and these changes by the Trump administration because it seems like these are some common sense policies that are looking out for the bottom line worker when it comes to these service industry jobs like gig work. If you a gig worker, tap in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about this and let me know. I want to show you a few examples of what it looks like on the earnings side for a gig worker that works Walmart, Spark, DoorDash, and Uber Eats. Starting off with Walmart Spark. And on this particular week, we have a driver who did $258.98 in overall earnings. The trip earnings were $126 and the confirmed tips were $132, showing that more than 50% of the earnings came from tips. With Walmart Spark, typically you're doing grocery delivery. With the grocery delivery customers, a lot of times you see higher tips because they are ordering a larger subtotal worth of groceries. This is earnings from Uber Eats. We have total earnings of $225.95. Net fare, which is the same as base fare, $98.86. And the tips on this one is actually more than 50%. We got $123. I guess this driver must have had some really generous customers. Maybe he was working a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But again, 50% or more of the earnings usually comes from tip. Now, when it comes to DoorDash, a lot of times it can depend on your market, your customer base, the driver saturation levels, but the thing that has the most impact on your base pay being higher than your tips will be if a dasher is on earn by time. This particular dasher here, if I had to guess, probably was not using the earn by time feature because as you can see here, they made a total of $283.06. With the DoorDash tips being almost double than the DoorDash base pay, which isn't unusual, but the thing to note is that usually it's about 50% pay in base, 50% pay in tips, with this dasher having almost another third in tips being at $180. That lets me know that the tips were very good for this dasher. They were dashing in a very good market and they definitely know what they're doing. Probably a cherry picking dasher. I just wanted to give you guys a few examples of why this is important and why the no tax on tips from the Trump administration is going to mean more money in your pocket, because every screenshot that I just showed you for earnings reflects that you get more in tips. You get more in tips. And if we're not being taxed on more than 50% of that income, that's going to mean more money in our pockets, less tax obligation. Hopefully it encourages the customer to tip more, and hopefully it just creates a better overall atmosphere for not only the dasher, the customer, but every party involved. I didn't know was it hair. I don't even remember. Listen, let me know if you are in favor of these policies, because listen, I'm gonna let you know right now, I'm in favor. Whenever there's more money in our pockets, less money to the apps. Because let's face it, they making records amount of money right now. They don't need no extra help. They already been caught in multiple states stealing tips. So we definitely need some help on the back end when it comes to paying them tax obligations. Listen, that's all I got for you in this little short video. But we definitely gonna keep our ear to the streets on different updates from the Trump administration, especially when it pertains to gig workers in our pockets, in our bank accounts. I'll holler at you. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.